Okay, first four problems: one-step equation, multi-step equation, equation with variables on both sides, and number 4 is a little bit of everything. Okay, so take about 4 minutes and solve all 4 of those. Go. Okay, x over 4 equals negative 12. What's the 4 doing? Dividing. So how do I solve it? Multiply both sides by 4. Put them in parentheses. Times 4 times 4 cancels, gives me x equals negative 48. How many got that one right? Okay, good. For the most part, most everybody. Number 2, 2 steps. I got to move the 3. I got to move the negative 6. Which one do I move first? The negative 6. Why? Okay, it's farthest away from the variable. It's not connected to the variable. So I'm going to move the negative 6 to the other side by addition. Use the number line if you need to. What is negative 18 plus 6? Negative 12. And divide both sides by 3. X equals negative 4. How many got that one right? Good. Okay, let's go to 3. Equation with variables on both sides. What's the rule for variables on both sides? Do we do the numbers first or the variables first? Variables first. Which one do we move to which side?
The 2 to the other side.
The smallest to the biggest. How do I move a 2x to the left-hand side? Subtract it. So that's going to give me 2x minus 3 equals 6. Now it's just a one-step equation, or excuse me, now it's a multi-step equation. What do we do with the minus 3? Add to both sides. Now the question here is going to be, how do I want you to express the answer? And that would not be right. I will accept 9 over 2 or 4 and 1/2. Do not make it a decimal for any reason. Do not make it a decimal for any reason. If there are decimals in your equation, you can have decimals for answers. If there are not, just leave it as a reduced fraction. Yes, ma'am?
So can you have that as 9 over 2?
Absolutely. You can just leave it at 9 over 2, put a box around it, and walk away. I'm totally fine with that. Saves you some time. You don't have to do anything else with it. Okay, number 4. Asher, what do you think? What property is that when I have parentheses and something on the outside? Distributive, okay? So draw the stupid arrows, okay? I'm going to draw them underneath because I don't have a lot of room on the top. And what's negative 7 times x? Negative 7x. Negative 7 times positive 2? Negative 14. Okay. Everything keeps boiling down to a multi-step equation. Everything is, it all goes together. What do I do with the minus 14? Add to both sides. So that gives me negative 7x equals 28. And final step, yes, ma'am.
Wait, why is it a minus since the x and the 2 have a plus? Wouldn't you add them then?
What's negative 7 times positive 2? That's where it came from. It had nothing to do with the x. It had to do with multiplying by the negative 7. Okay. Now we're going to divide both sides by? Negative 7. And x equals negative 4. How many had that? Good. All right. I feel pretty good about equations. That's a lot of hands raised. Okay. Question number 5. Our friend, the fraction. Okay. How many step equation is this? Single. It's a single step equation. All right. What am I going to do with the negative 1/2? Add it to both sides. Once I've added 1/2 to both sides, That cancels. So I'm left with x equals whatever it's going to be. All right, now when I add fractions, what do I need? Common denominators. What is the common denominator between 3 and 2? 6. So over here to the side, I'm just going to kind of transform those into sixes. 2/3 is how many sixths? 4/6. Again, we had multiplied top and bottom by 2 to make the bottom denominator 6 and the numerator 4. How many sixths is 1/2? 3. So 3/6 plus 4/6 is how much? 7/6. Again, I'm okay with that if you want to leave it there, or you can make it 1 1/6. Either way is perfectly okay. How many got that one right? Perfect. How many of you changed it to a decimal? Good. Nobody did that. Why are you still looking at me? What happened?
Your sixes are annoying.
My sixes?
Oh no, when you say it.
When I say sixths.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Sixths? How do you say it?
They're annoying.
How do you say it?
6.
It's not a 6. It's sixths. Okay. Where did my screen go?
6.
Now I gotta find my screen.
There.
There we go. All right, so I'll take 7/6 or 1 1/6. Either one is fine. Number 6. How do we solve number 6? For those of you who are listening to the recording at home, it's an inside joke. No worries. Unless you were in 5th hour, then you knew it. Yes, ma'am. Cross multiply. Did anybody multiply both sides by 4? You know, I told everybody to cross multiply this one, and then in my last class, somebody said, well, can't you just multiply both sides by 4 because that's x divided by 4? And she's absolutely right. You could multiply both sides by 4. You're going to get the exact same answer. But let's cross multiply. We have x times 10 is what?
10x.
10x. And I'm going to get somebody on this one, and somebody's going to be mad tomorrow. And what's 4 times 8? 32. So I'm going to divide both sides by 10. For those of you who put 3.2, you just missed it tomorrow. Okay? It's not in a decimal. Just reduce the fraction. What is 32 tenths reduced? Well, okay, reduce it another way. What's 32 tenths reduced? 16 over 5. Okay, again, I would take 16 over 5. I will not take 32 over 10. You do have to reduce that. I would take 16 over 5 or 3 1/5.
Yes.
Okay, how many got that one right? All right, pretty good number.
I thought I got it.
How many of you put 3.2? Okay, so technically you got it right. You just didn't express it the way I wanted it. All right, so that's all right. Again, a good rule of thumb. If the equation has decimals in it, have decimals in your answer. If it does not, don't have decimals in your answer. Okay? Did you have a question, Hunter? Okay. So let's look at number 7. Number 7 is also a cross multiply. So let's take the small one first. Let's take 3 times 3, which is 9. And I'm going to get some of you on the next one. Okay, the next one is distributive property. So what do I get when I multiply through? 2x plus 12. For those of you who put 2x plus 6, you forgot to multiply through by 2.
Where are the negatives?
3 times 3. It's still 9. Okay, now what? What's the next step? Subtract 12 from both sides. Again, if you want to add a step there, you can do something else as long as you get the right answer. Again, that's an inside joke. If you're not in 5th hour, you won't get that. So just... All right, so negative 3 equals 2x. And then divide both sides by 2. Again, do not change it to a decimal. I would accept negative 3 over 2 or negative 1 and 1/2. Okay, how many got that? Raise your hands. Good. Okay. Okay, let's take a look at number 8. Substitute in the values. Keep the negative sign on the outside. Keep the absolute value brackets. X is negative 2. Y is 4. And Z is 3. Next step, do I keep the absolute value brackets up? Yes. Keep the negative sign on the outside. That gives me negative 8 plus 3. Still, keep the absolute value brackets up. What is negative 8 plus 3? Negative 5. Now, how many of you said negative times a negative gives me an answer of positive 5? Raise your hand. No, just raise it. You're not the only one. And you're not the only two. The other people are going, see, people are erasing. They're like, that must not be right. Okay? Careful. Do the absolute value bracket first. What is the absolute value of negative 5? 5. Okay, so now it's outside the absolute value bracket. Attach the negative to it. Okay? Be careful. There is one identical to that tomorrow, just different numbers. But it'll have the negative sign on the outside of the absolute value bracket. Go all the way down, find your answer, put the negative on it. Okay? Sir?
So you don't actually do the absolute value until you get down to that.
Till the very last, till you just have a single number in the absolute value bracket. Don't do any absolute value.
Okay, that's what messed me up when we did the
Yep. Okay, so when you get a single number there, then bring it out.
got that one right.
All right. Number 9, negative 2. Keep that on the outside. 4 times z is going to be 4 times 3. I'm going to go ahead and make that 12. Just kind of skip a step. Some of you may have done the exact same thing on this one. You may have the minus a minus 2, and you tell yourself that's a plus, but it's not. What's the absolute value of 12? 12. What's 12 times negative 2? Negative 24. Okay. Keep the minus sign. Keep this minus sign. Now, what's the absolute value of negative 2? 2. What is negative 24? I know my number line doesn't go this far, but hopefully we're getting the pattern. What's negative 24 minus 2? Negative 26. Okay, how many got negative 26? Raise your hand. Quite a few. Okay. I'm all right with that number. That's a pretty good number. All right, let's go to 10 and 11. Staying with absolute value. Now we're just going to do absolute value equations. Okay. So give number 10 and 11 a shot. Question number 10 is not a trick question. It's something that you need to recognize visually. We talk about absolute value being distance to 0. How many numbers are going to give us a distance of negative 8? None. There is no solution to number 10. Okay?
I couldn't figure it out.
I got negative 14.
There's no solution. All right? I promise you, you need to be able to recognize it. I also promise you there will be one of these on your end of instruction Algebra 1 test. There will also be one of these on your OCCT. I promise you, because what they want to see is, can you tell right away if it's not right? It's kind of like a baker when they make something and they take a bite of it and they're like, nope, this sucks. I'm starting over. I don't know if I can say that on video, but I just did. Sorry for those of you children who are listening to this. That's a bad word. Okay? You know right away just by looking at it. The distance, I can't have a negative 8 distance. Now, if this is a multiple choice question, what is the symbol that represents no solution? Okay. All right. So if it's a free response on any of your exams, you answer it no solution. If it's a multiple choice, look for the one that has a circle with a line through it. Okay, there's nothing I can put in here that's going to be distance to 0 of -8. Nothing. It's absolutely impossible. Now, number 11 is absolutely possible, and there are two answers. How do I set up my first equation? Hunter. X plus 4 equals 12. First equation is just what's written without the absolute value bracket. What that's saying is there's a number in here that has a distance of 12. Do you agree? Okay. What's the second one? Kinsey.
Sorry, I lost my paper. X plus 4 equals -12.
X plus 4 equals -12. Now, this is where some will say, but gosh, Mr. Renault, you keep saying distance is positive. That's right. Okay. Could the number inside of here be -12?
Yeah.
Yes, because the distance from -12 to 0 is 12. That's why we do two different equations. Now, these are one-steppers, no big deal. Subtract 4 from both sides. One of the answers is 8, because 8 plus 4 is 12. That's going to give me an absolute value of 12 if you're checking at home. Subtract 4 here. X equals -16. Okay, what's -16 plus 4? -12. What's the absolute value of -12? 12. It works. Question number 12. Okay, if I'm going to get rid of the fraction first, how do I do it? Anybody? How do I get rid of fractions and go ahead. Multiply both sides by its reciprocal. Now, I heard somebody say divide. That's absolutely right. When you divide by 1/2, when you divide fractions, you end up multiplying by the reciprocal. Okay? So multiply both sides by 2 over 1. Over here, I'm just going to multiply it by 2. I don't have to do 2 over 1 because a is not a fraction. 2 times a?
2a.
2a. Oop, I almost put a lowercase a there. That would be bad. I could lose my job. 2a equals b over h. Or excuse me, bh. And so to solve for b, what do I do with h? Divide it on both sides.
Yes.
So my final answer is b equals 2a over h. How many got that? Raise your hand. Okay. 5 or 6, 7 maybe. All right.
Well, I got 2a
That's
over
fine. Good
h
talk. Here we go.
equals b.
You got what?
2a over h equals b.
2a over h equals b. That's the answer. Shh. Okay, let's go to the second one. I'll give you a couple of minutes on it if you haven't finished it. I want to get a good judge of how we do it. Again, get rid of the 1/2 first. So multiply both sides by 2. Okay, for 13, we're going to multiply both sides by 2 again, just like we did on the last one. That's going to give me 2x equals y parentheses a plus c. Okay, how many got that far? All right, the next step is kind of the killer. Okay, let's. What are the y and the a plus c doing to each other? Add, subtract, multiply, or divide? They're multiplying. And so the opposite of multiplication is division. I can divide by the entire thing, a plus c. Because a plus c over a plus c does what? Cancels. That leaves me with y equals 2x over a plus c. How many got that right? Okay, that's more than the first one. That's progress. All right. There are 3 of those tomorrow. Okay? 3 of those. I'm sorry, there are 3 of those. What? Yes. All right, we're excited. Convince the brain. Exactly. That's the kind of fun that math is all about. All right, number 14. 14, these numbers are made up, so don't be critical and don't go, whoa, I never knew that, because they're made up. All right. Last year, in the middle school, we had 421 students. Okay, this year, we had 516 students. Again, they're not right. I got that. They're just made, it's not even close. There's almost 400 in every class, but again, let's not be critical. Here we go. I want to know the percent of change. This is from chapter 2, section 7. Okay, so what is the formula? Mason, remember the formula?
Wasn't the change in between those over the original?
Okay, change over original. Okay, keep going, Mason. You're on right now. One more step. Equals what?
Equals
The percentage? How did I represent percentage? Something over 100. X over 100. Okay. That's how good job, Jake from State Farm. Well done. Well done. Okay, so what's the change? What's the change? 95. What's the original? 421. So that's going to be 421x equals 9,500. And calculators unite. Oh, pardon me. What do we got? Go ahead and give me to a couple decimals. 22.56. Does everybody agree? 22.56. It's not important. Nope. Because as long as it's 22.5, that means it's going to go up to 23%. And it's a 23% what? Increase. %23 increase. Okay, number 14. Excuse me, number 15. Thank you. Number 15. I'm going to kind of abbreviate a little bit because I need to speed through this. We've only got about 10 minutes left. There's going to be 3 consecutive integers. Their sum is 33. My question is, what's the second integer? Okay? There are 3 consecutive integers whose sum is 33. I don't want to know what the first one is. I don't want to know what the third one is. Your answer is going to be the second one. But we do have to find all 3 to find the second one. Okay? Consecutive integers. What does that mean? In order. Give me an example of 3 consecutive integers. 1, 2, 3 at its basic form. So how far apart is the first one from the second one? 1. Okay, so our first integer is going to be valued at what? X. Okay, our first integer is our unknown. Our second integer is what? 1 plus x or x plus 1. I'm just going to write it in order for column's sake. And then our third one is going to be what? X plus 2. Now, key word in the second statement up here is sum. What does that mean? Add them together and set them equal to 33. What's 1x plus 1x plus 1x? 3x. And then 1 plus 2? 3. And it says that their sum is 33. What a good looking problem. Only 3's in it. 3x plus 3 equals 33. This is a multi-step equation. We can solve this. Subtract 3 from both sides. That's going to give us 3x equals 30. Divide both sides by 3. X equals 10. If you're not paying attention and you put your box around that, you miss it tomorrow. Because it wants to know what the second one is. What's our first one?
10.
So what's our second one? 11. It is not x equals 11, because x doesn't equal 11. X equals 10. The answer is 11. Plain and simple, walk away. All right? Yes, sir. Nope, don't do it. It's coincidental. Somebody tried to prove it to me last hour. It doesn't work. Yeah. Okay, on page 133, we're looking at real world example number 2. What are the kinds of punch that we have? What's the percent? 3% and 33%. That's what we have. That's what we have in hand. That's what we have in gallon jugs. We got it. All right? We're going to mix those together and form a what percentage? How much?
20.
A 20% punch. Okay. First thing we want to do when we're dealing with percentages is do what? Change them to decimals. What is 3% as a decimal? 0.03. What's 33%? 0.33. And 20%? 0.2 or 0.20. I'm just going to put 0.20 because everything else is 2 spaces. Normally I would put 0.2. When we're making punch, it's important to know how much juice is in it. It's also important to know what? How much you got. Okay? So we're doing percentage here. The next column is going to be cups. How many cups of the 3% juice do we have? 16. How many cups of the 33% juice do we have? X. We don't know. That's what we're actually trying to find out, is how much do I need to add. Now, when we're combining these juices, I'm taking 16 cups of this one and X cups of this one. So how much total do I have? 16 plus X. Okay. Now what? We need a total column, and I'm hearing from the gallery, hey, we need to do something across. What was that we did across yesterday? We multiplied them. So calculators, get out real quick. Remember that the third one is a distributive property problem, so you have to take 0.2 times 16. And what is 0.03 times 16? 0.48. The next one's pretty simple. That's going to be 0.33x. Okay, what is 0.2 times 16? 3.2. Good answer.
Yes,
3.2 plus 0.2x. Again, I have to multiply this times this. I also have to multiply it times the x. Again, if I'm taking this punch and I'm putting them together, what am I doing? Adding, subtracting, multiplying, or dividing? Adding. So I'm going to add the totals of the first 2 punches. And I'm going to set it equal to what? I'm going to set it equal to what? 3.2 plus 0.2x. That's the combined punch. Okay? This plus this equals combination. Again, I think your test question tomorrow, you're making trail mix. Good times. Everybody loves a good trail mix. I love trail mix. Okay, just a couple minutes left. I'm going to speed through this real quick. This is just a equation with variables on both sides. So we're going to move the 0.2x over here by subtracting. That gives us 0.48 plus 0.13x equals 3.2. Now what am I going to do? Subtract the 0.48. So that gives me 0.13x equals 2.72. And then divide both sides by 0.13. 2.72 divided by 0.13 is what? Yes? Take it out 2 places for me right now. 20.92. Let's go ahead and just leave that 20.9. Okay, we'll round it to the nearest tenth. And that's 20.9 what? Cups. And that's it.